The Bartenders of Reddit. What is the smoothest pickup line you've ever heard? Story 1. Sort of an anti-pickup line, but I witnessed a drunk girl get decimated at the bar one night. She was hot, and one of those, like, "you're cute and you should buy me a drink" type girls. Some dumpy-looking dude walks up to the bar and orders a Corona, and she pulls the hole and put a rum and coke on there for me, insinuating that he should buy her next drink. He looked at her casually and says, "Make it a rum and diet," and then just walks away. I was speechless. I'd never seen him before and haven't seen him since. Sometimes I wonder if he ever existed at all. Story 2. Not a good pickup line, but a good pickup line story. There's a classic, which is putting an ice cube on the bar, smashing it with your fist and saying, "That's the ice broken. Want to get a drink?" Well, an awkward friend of mine decided to try it, smashed the ice and managed to ricochet a piece of it into his own eye before being able to say the line, shouted a profanity, and staggered off. The girl was pretty confused. Story 3. Shy girl regularly comes in with her friend. My co-worker and I are pretty chummy with them, so we're chatting all night, letting them try some of the new cocktails shots. Our bar's trialing. We give them one particular shot, and the friend says she doesn't like it too much and asks if it's the kind of drink my girlfriend likes. I was single. Shy girl picks up her shot, downs it, and says, "Yes, it is," then immediately runs out of the building in shyness. We've been dating almost 6 months now. Story 4. Bartender here. Best pickup I've ever seen was when a group of 3 dudes college-aged were at the bar on my end. They started talking about this girl on the other side who's clearly the hottest girl in the bar. One of them jokingly said to another, "If you can get her number without saying a word to her, I'll buy you drinks the rest of the night." The kid who was dared waved me down, asked for a pen and napkin. He walked over and within 10 minutes came back over, girl in hand, asking his buddy, who bet him for 2 patron shots. I asked him what he did and he showed me the napkin with her number. He played hanging on the napkin and spelt out, "Can I have your number?" And it actually worked. He and his girl were drinking heavily and for free the rest of the night. He also walked out with her, so I hope he scored. Story 5. Bartended in college. Guy walked up to a girl at the bar, goes, "Hi, my name is Ben and I'm going to buy you drinks until you find me attractive." Girl smiled and laughed and he asked what she would like to drink. She looked him over. He was already very attractive, turned to me and said, "In that case, I'll have a water." He definitely got it that night. Story 6. Saw a dude standing at the bar waiting to order drinks when it was his round and a Britney Spears song comes on. He just happily sings along and wiggles his hips waiting to order drinks. Wasn't showing off or trying to be funny, just happily doing his thing. The chick next to him was staring the whole time laughing, and when he noticed, he just smiled and nodded and went right back to it. She took the bait and that was that. Story 7. Mala, not the smoothest line ever, but the best one used on me. I work in a bar/restaurant in San Francisco, and these 2 Australian girls came in. One had a boyfriend and she said, "I plan on getting so drunk that I get carried home tonight." And the single girl turned to me and said, "Maybe you can help me carry her." Story 8. I met my current girlfriend while working behind a bar. She got way too drunk, so the next time she came up to order a drink, I gave her a pint of water and told her she had enough. Her response, "Well, if you're not going to give me a drink, at least give me your number. We have a dog now. I like dogs." Story 9. Well, I'm a bartender, and so far we're closing up. But if you want another drink, I live upstairs. Has worked exactly 0% of the time. Do you actually live upstairs? Because if not, that might be what's holding you back. Story 10. Bartender server here. Buzzed gentleman extends a hand to slightly more buzzed woman and asks, "Will you hold this while I step outside?" They come back after sharing a cigarette. Pay the tab, take a cab together to wherever. Story 11. A co-worker tried to start a game of tic-tac-toe with a pretty girl by drawing an empty board on a napkin and handing her the pen. She just wrote down her phone number. Story 12. Not a pickup line, but the smoothest thing I've seen from behind the mahogany. This guy was sitting on this girl at the end of the bar. She asked him, "Are you going to bring me some roses?" And this man took 2 straws, a napkin and a lighter. "And I crap you not made a rose with it. You bet your booty." She laughed with him. "Kudos, sir." Like a drunk MacGyver. Story 13. Not so much a pickup line, but I bartended at a big college bar, and when you wordlessly hand your friend a beer when the bar is swamped and he just got there, it makes him look that much cooler to whatever girl he's talking to. Do you want the best loving of your life tonight? No. Then I'm the guy for you. Story 14. I bartended in a pub next to a college campus. I watched a guy say, "That's interesting," or "Oh man, that's crazy," for a full hour and a half before leaving with a girl way out of his league. Fake it till you make it. Ladies and gentlemen. Story 15. Heard this one while closing down a couple of weeks back. Come on. Let's go back to my place. I'll make you a quesadilla. This girl had been swatting guys away like flies all night, but that one worked out. Story 16. Not exactly a pickup line, but really clever and cool way a girl let me know she was interested. I noticed her on the opposite side of the bar and we smiled at each other. I was newly single. She was with a date and obviously bored still. She was with a date, and I'm not going to interrupt and be that kind of douchebag. After a few minutes, I walked around to her side of the bar to head to the bathroom. She stopped me and said, "Here, your pocket. 8 square is messed up." She fumbled with it a sec, said all good, and I moved on to the restroom. I got home later and took my blazer off. Noticed something was off with the pocket square. She had stashed a napkin with her name and number. I texted that night and we went out later that week. 11 out of 10 was impressed with the smoothies. Story 17. I work at a bar in Long Beach, New York. Molly, a female customer, was giving me advice on how to hit on my bartender coworker, female, who is a very close friend of mine. She kept feeding me adorable things to say to my friends because she thought we looked cute together. I thanked her and took one step toward my friends, then turned back to her and repeated it all back. She took the bait and it landed me back at her place. Story 18. I was in another country with friends and I asked the waitress where the best bar in town was when she started saying, "Oh, it depends on what you like." I asked her which one I'd likely find her at. My friends thought it was very smooth. I guess she did too. Story 19. A girl once bet that if she could fit an entire one of the cupcakes we sold in her mouth without using her hands, I would have to give it to her for free. She did, and I did. I was so impressed. I got her a free drink too. 6 years later, we are still together, eating cupcakes and crap. Story 20. I'm a bartender. Met my girlfriend when she asked me for 2 shots of a tequila and Tabasco-based shot, and then said that one is for you. I still think she's very cool. Not a bartender, but hooked up with one once it was closing time, and she said, "If you don't work here or are banning the staff, time to leave." I leaned over and said, "I guess I'm staying with the confidence only a recently divorced man could have." It worked, oddly enough. Story 21. I saw a drinking guy sit next to a woman at the bar and say, "You mind if I sit here and hit on you for a while?" That's my go-to pickup line, other than Taco Bell hot sauce sayings. Story 22. I cocktail at a bowling alley. A group of high school kids were bowling one night. A bunch of them had class of 2017 shirts or hoodies on. I got off work and walked to the front desk to clock off. One of the boys from that group walks up behind me with a bowling ball in each hand and asks if I can do him a favor. I was caught off guard and it was a little random, but I was like, sure. So he motions with one bowling ball hand to his hoodie pocket and asks me to grab his phone out for him. And I'm a little skeptical, but I reach in with my pointer and thumb and grab it and set it on the counter for him and continue to clock out. But then the kid says, "Wait, can you unlock it for me?" So I do, and then he asks me to go to the phone dial. "Actually, will you go to the contacts? Now just put in your number for me." I feel so terrible. I'm pretty sure I humiliated the pocket, but I apologized and told him that I'm married. He was a cute boy, and 10 years ago, when I was just getting out of high school, that would totally have worked on me. Well, at least he had the balls to do it. Story 23. I am not a bartender, but I saw this happen at a bar. I was sitting at a table with 2 of my friends. One girl, one guy. Some guy I've never seen before comes over, places 3 beers, one in front of each of us, and proceeds to start talking to my female friend. I assumed it was just one of her friends I had never met. It took me a solid 5 minutes to figure out this guy was a stranger and that I was blown away with how smooth of a move that was. Story 24. There was a new bartender who had just started at the local ale house. Just an absolutely stunning girl. When I ordered, she kindly asked for my ID. One of the other bartenders waved her off and the interaction unfolded like so. "Oh, he's a regular. You don't need to card him." New girl. "Oh, I would just feel better if I did." Me? "It's cool if you want to know my address. It's not far from here." Cue the blushing. 10 out of 10 smoothest I've ever been. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Story 25. I'm not a bartender, but I witnessed this line this weekend and I thought it was fantastic. After this girl had turned down some pretty good-looking fellow, this other guy walks up to the bar like he's going to order a drink and just casually says, "Man, he's definitely taller than me. So I sure hope I can make you laugh." Didn't watch the whole thing unfold, but they were still chatting when I left. Story 26. I met my girlfriend working at a bar. The dress code was terrible, all black with white suspenders and a white bow tie. She was a patron and was wearing an adorable dress with a bow in her hair. The music was super loud, DDM nightclub, so I just pointed to her hair and wiggled my bow tie and winked. About 20 minutes later, I get her phone number. We've been together for almost 4 years. Story 27. My first month of bartending. I had a girl quickly finish to Cosmos. I came up and asked her how she was doing. I'd have another one, but you'd have to take me home. Her group of friends got a nice laugh when I blushed. Story 28. Not while I was at work, but was on a late train once and watched a tipsy woman chat a guy into getting off at the next stop to go to a pub that had a jazz band on tonight. I know the pub she named, and I know full well there was no jazz band on that night. That lady was hot, and that guy was super lucky. Or maybe she robbed him. Story 29. I bartended a gay spa. I've seen pickups happen with no words, just eye contact and apparent telepathy. They're so gay. Their gaydar has text messaging. Story 30. Do you want to come over and see my ceiling while I make excuses for 30 minutes? Story 31. I borrowed my friend's tiny backpack, put it on, and asked a woman at the bar, does this make my bum look fat? It was literally the only time I've ever gotten a woman's phone number at a bar. Story 32. Not a bartender, but try this line at the bar. Very pretty girl standing at the bar, and I walked up to her and said, can I buy you a drink or do you just want the money? She took the drink. 5 years later, she took everything else I had. Story 33. I once was flirting with a bartender, real cute blonde. I had her chatting with me when she then asked if I had a girlfriend. I said, no, I don't, but if I did, it would be this girl. Would you like to see her photo? She said, yeah, sure. So I put my phone into camera mode with the front camera on and gave her the phone. She looked at it and saw herself and let out a chuckle as she blushed. Story 34. I once saw a girl go up to a fellow in a goth club and ask him if he washed his clothes in Windex. He was supposed to say no, so she could say, that's weird because I sure can see myself in your pants. Trouble was, he was wearing patent leather pants and excitedly answered yes. Aren't they shiny? Her line was ruined, but they left together anyway. Story 35. Dude comes up to the bar, points to a smoke and asks me to get her a cup of ice water without telling her what it was and saying it was from him. She gets the drink, looks over at the guy, and they both smile at each other. Then she takes a sip and her face becomes full of utter confusion and WTF dumb. Guy walks over, smiles and says, just making sure you're staying hydrated. They both laugh and later on end up violently making out. Story 36. Not a bartender, but was at a bar with 3 friends a few years ago and one of the waitresses was deaf. We watched a guy go up to her, sign some stuff to her. She smiled and excitedly wrote something down, handed it to him and walked away. He walked by us, showed us the number and said, 4 years of sign language in high school finally paid off for once. Story 37. I was a bartender for a little while. On my last day, I was celebrating my last day with everyone, and the hottest girl at the bar that day said, after your shift, want to come over and celebrate? Literally, the only time that has happened to me in my life. I'm still riding on that high. Story 38. Not a bartender, but I was sitting alone at a bar and heard a guy say this to the girl next to me. You look like a night of disappointment and week of dodged phone calls. I didn't hear the rest of the conversation, but they left together. Former bartender here. This straightforward, nihilistic crap works, especially in colder climates in the dead of winter. Story 39. I wouldn't kick you out of bed for eating crackers. I was bartending at the Legion. She was a nice lady. Story 40. I handed a cute customer 2 pints of beer. He fumbled and inevitably dropped one, spilling it all over me, looked at me with his cutest smile and said, if I pretended I did that on purpose so I could use the let's get you out of those wet things line, would you laugh or throw me out? I laughed and he spent the rest of the evening being sent to the bar by his friends to buy every single round so that he could flirt more. We went on a date a week later and we were together for nearly 4 years. Story 41. A guy sat down next to a woman at the bar. She was obviously not interested. Then he said, I may not be the best looking guy here, but I'm the only one talking to you. You should try lowering your standards. I just did. She threw her drink in his face and slapped him. Always keep your mouth open when insulting a woman. Free drinks. Story 42. Fancy a drink after my shift ends? She replied, yeah, sure, we are married now. Story 43. This line worked on me. I'm the bartender in this situation. Guy buys a drink for himself and the girl next to him. I ring him up, and as I'm handing him the receipt, the girl looks me dead in the eyes and says, I was just telling him how you look like you probably have a really nice dong. I literally didn't know how to react. And as I'm standing there, she kind of slaps this dude's arm and was like, tell him I'm serious. He just nods, clearly not knowing how to react either, but confirming that she had in fact told him that I looked like I probably had a nice dong. She hung around my corner of the club until close and then asked me straight up if I'd be interested in coming home with her and said if I wasn't, Then no worries. Have a good night. It was so direct and to the point that I had no issue going home with her. So I did, and we've met up a couple more times since. Story 44. It's not a pickup line, but when I was working as a bartender, I witnessed something pretty epic and hilarious. A good mate of mine was at the bar and he's a pretty stingy guy, so he doesn't spend too much when out on the town and usually doesn't get drunk. So yeah, my mate's been at the bar all night chatting to friends and other random patrons, and there's this total babe sitting on the other side of the bar from him that's been eyeing him all night. I have no idea if he's even aware of her or not. So she's been sitting there for ages, sort of waiting for something to happen, just sipping on her lolly drink. No dudes have bothered to approach her or anything so far. This keeps up for a bit, and then this buff, scary-looking guy comes to the bar totally wasted and asks me for a beer. He asks me quietly what the hot lady's been drinking and tells me to get her another one. He pays up and goes to the bathroom or someplace. I give the lady the drink and tell her it's compliments of a gentleman admirer, and she just looks straight at my mate. Being the total miser that he is, he just nods at her and cracks a sly grin. She walks up to him and they start chatting, and 2 minutes later they leave together. Meanwhile, the big guy comes back and sees the lady missing and promptly orders himself another drink. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.